The spaceship shuddered as it touched down on the alien planet. Outside, the sky was a strange shade of violet, and twin suns cast long, strange shadows across the metal landing pad. The human crew's hearts pounded in their chests. This was a world unlike any they had seen, full of dangers they could barely imagine. Inside the medical bay, the room was quiet, almost too quiet. The walls shimmer with alien technology, panels blinking with soft lights, machines humming in rhythms that made humans uneasy. In the center of the room, a group of cubs, human children, lay on glowing tables. Their breathing was shallow, weak. 3 alien medics stood over them. Their tall, thin bodies were wrapped in smooth silver suits. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the soft lights of the machines. One of them, slightly taller than the others, shook its head slowly. "These cubs are doomed," it said, in a voice that was both soft and final. "Medicine here is useless." The words hit like a hammer. The human medic, a young woman named Dr. Lara Vance, clenched her fist behind her back. Her jaw tightened. She could not believe what she was hearing. "No," she whispered under her breath. "There has to be a way." But the alien medics did not seem to hear her. They moved with precision, their long fingers hovering over the cubs' bodies, scanning, analyzing, and then withdrawing. They shook their heads again, as if confirming what they had already decided. One of the smaller cubs coughed weakly. Its tiny body shivered. The aliens barely reacted. To them, this was a simple failure. To Alara, it was a challenge she could not ignore. She stepped closer, careful not to touch anything. Her eyes scanned the alien equipment. It was advanced, far beyond anything humans had built. Yet she noticed something. The machines followed strict rules. They could heal, analyze, or stabilize, but only within a narrow range. Human biology, she realized, did not fit neatly into these rules. A spark of hope ignited in her mind. Maybe the aliens were brilliant, but they were also rigid. They could not think outside their protocols. That was where she could make a difference. Alara's mind raced. She had studied alien medicine for years, preparing for this mission. She knew humans were different, adaptable. Sometimes the simplest solutions, intuition, observation, patience, could achieve what the most complex machines could not. The aliens began to prepare for departure. Their work here was done, or so they thought. Alara's heart pounded. She had only moments. Quietly, she bent over one of the cubs. She placed a hand near its tiny chest, feeling the faint rhythm of life. "Hold on," she whispered. "I won't let them die." A low alarm suddenly echoed through the room. Lights flickered. One of the cubs stirred, its eyes opening briefly. The aliens paused, their heads tilting in unison. They watched, silent, confused. Alara seized the moment. She moved quickly, taking notes, scanning the machines, memorizing the readings. She needed to understand how the alien technology worked, and more importantly, how it failed with humans. Every second counted. The lead alien approached, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Human," it said, voice calm but sharp. "Your interference is unnecessary. The cubs will not survive. Accept this." Alara swallowed, her throat dry, but she did not back down. "I cannot," she said firmly. "There is always a way. Always." The alien tilted its head. It did not understand, and perhaps it never would. Its kind relied on certainty, on logic, on proven outcomes. Humans were unpredictable, messy, but they were also ingenious. That unpredictability, that spark of stubborn hope, was Alara's greatest weapon. As the aliens moved to leave, Alara felt a small, almost imperceptible pulse from one of the cubs. It was tiny, barely noticeable, but was there. A flicker of life, a chance, a reason to fight. She exhaled slowly, a plan forming in her mind. She would not use alien rules or protocols. She would use human intuition, creativity, and courage. She would find a way to save them, even if it meant breaking every rule the aliens had ever set. The aliens left the room, doors sliding closed with a hiss. The hum of the machines filled the silence once more. But now, Alara was alone with hope, with possibility, and with a dangerous determination. Somewhere deep in the corner of the lab, a small light blinked. It was faint, almost hidden, but to Alara it was a signal, a beginning, a clue, the first step toward saving the cubs that everyone else had declared doomed. She knelt beside the table, her eyes meeting the tiny, fragile faces of the cubs. "Don't worry," she whispered. "I will find a way. I promise you that." Outside, the alien world stretched endlessly, indifferent and cold. But inside, in this small room, one human heart burned with stubborn defiance, and that was enough to change everything. The first part of the story ends with tension, suspense, and a promise. The humans may be small, fragile, and underestimated, but sometimes that is exactly what makes them powerful. The alien doors slid shut with a hiss, leaving Alara alone in the lab with the flickering lights and the soft hum of the machines. The cubs lay still on their tables, fragile and weak, but alive. Every heartbeat was a reminder. Time was running out. Alara wiped sweat from her forehead. She knew she had to act fast. The aliens had left, but they would return. And if they discovered her interference, there could be consequences. Severe consequences. Yet, the thought of giving up never crossed her mind. She glanced around the lab. Rows of alien consoles blinked with strange symbols. Some of the equipment looked like it belonged in a museum, some like weapons, and some like machines that could read life itself. Humans had studied alien medicine for decades, but much of it remained a mystery. Her eyes settled on a narrow door marked with glowing symbols that pulsed faintly. This was a restricted archive, a place even the aliens approached carefully. No human had ever entered without authorization. But desperate times called for desperate measures. Alara moved swiftly, quietly. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. She had to think clearly. The cubs depended on her. The archive door recognized her presence with a soft hum, but did not stop her. Inside, the room was vast, filled with shelves of holographic data and floating records that rotated in the air. It smelled faintly of ozone and something metallic, something alive. Alara began scanning the records, searching for anything that might help. Alien medicine was precise, almost cold in its logic. It could heal, stabilize, and even regenerate, but only when the patient fit the exact parameters the aliens designed. Humans did not. Hours passed. She read, decoded, and cross-checked. Most of the records confirmed what the aliens had said. Humans were incompatible with their medicine, yet buried deep within an ancient hologram. She found something curious, an old note almost erased. Some cures are meant to fail until a fresh perspective emerges. Alara frowned, reading the words over and over. Fresh perspective, that was it. That was exactly what she was. Humans did not see the world the way aliens did. Humans adapted. Humans improvised. She took careful notes, copying the alien formulas, then started thinking differently. What if she combined alien tech with human intuition? What if she observed patterns the aliens ignored? Her mind raced. She remembered small details from the cubs' reactions earlier, the way one tiny heartbeat had flickered, the way another shivered when touched lightly. The aliens had ignored these, but to Alara, these were clues. Suddenly, a soft beep echoed. One of the cubs stirred again. Its eyes fluttered open, barely visible, but alive. Alara's pulse quickened. This was proof the cub could respond. They were not doomed. Not yet, but danger was near. The alien medics could return at any moment. She had to work quickly. She began experimenting in secret, trying small adjustments, blending the alien methods with human intuition. Every change was minor, but calculated. Every step carried risk. She noticed something remarkable. A slight alteration in the energy flow, something the aliens would never try, caused the cub's vital signs to stabilize, even improve. Alara's eyes widened. She whispered, almost to herself, "It's working, it's really working." Her excitement was cut short. The archive sensors blinked red briefly. She froze. The aliens were monitoring the network, perhaps even remotely. Any mistake could alert them. But Alara could not stop now. The cubs' lives were too precious. She moved faster, copying more ancient records and piecing together a plan. It was risky, almost reckless, but she had no choice. Human intuition versus alien precision. Creativity versus rigid logic. One small human mind against centuries of alien expertise. The cub's faint breaths filled the room, each one a fragile rhythm, a reminder why she risked everything. Ilara smiled slightly, though her heart pounded. This was just the beginning. If she succeeded, it would not only save the cubs but prove something far greater, that humans could excel where even advanced alien civilizations could not. Hours blurred into night, or what humans would have called night. Time had little meaning on this planet, with twin suns. Finally, Ilara leaned back, exhausted but determined. She had discovered the key, a combination of alien technology and human creativity. She glanced at the cubs. Their tiny chests rose and fell steadily. Their eyes blinked, fragile but alive. Hope was no longer just a flicker. It was real. Ilara whispered, "Tomorrow, we try the first real treatment. And tomorrow, we change everything." Outside, the alien planet stretched endlessly, indifferent and vast. But inside the small, glowing archive, one human had found forbidden knowledge, and with it, the first real chance to defy fate. The hidden lab was quiet except for the soft hum of alien machines. Ilara knelt beside the cubs, her eyes scanning every small detail. Their breathing, their pulse, the faintest flickers of life. She had spent hours decoding alien records and combining them with human intuition. Now it was time for action. She prepared the first treatment carefully. It was not like the alien protocols, which relied on strict formulas and precise energy flows. No, this was something new, a blend of alien technology and human creativity. She adjusted the energy levels, recalibrated the bioscanners, and monitored the cubs closely. At first, nothing happened. The machines hummed. The cubs lay still, and Ilara held her breath. Doubt crept in. Had she miscalculated? Was it already too late? She clenched her fists. Failure was not an option. Minutes passed like hours. One of the cubs coughed weakly. Its chest rose slightly higher than before. Ilara's heart jumped. A small sign, fragile but real. She adjusted the treatment again, shifting the energy flow slightly, relying on her instincts. Suddenly, an alarm blared. The alien sensors had detected unusual activity in the lab. Ilara's stomach dropped. The aliens might return at any second. She had to act fast. With careful precision, she intensified the treatment in short bursts, watching the cub's responses closely. One cub's eyes fluttered open. It blinked confused but alive. Another stirred, its tiny hands reaching out. Ilara's face lit up with a mix of relief and determination. It was working, but not perfectly. Some cubs reacted better than others. Some showed alarming weakness. "Come on, hold on," she whispered to them, her voice steady despite the panic building in her chest. Every heartbeat mattered. Every breath counted. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her, heavier than any gravity she had ever known. She experimented cautiously, making small adjustments, recording each reaction. Sometimes the cub's vitals surged, then dipped. Sometimes they responded to a minor change she had not expected. Each trial was unpredictable, each success fragile. Hours passed. Sweat ran down her face. Her mind raced. The aliens' rigid rules had failed to help the cubs, but her human logic, her willingness to observe, to try, to fail and try again, was making a difference. Humans were unpredictable, but that unpredictability was their strength. Suddenly, one cub's breathing became dangerously shallow. Ilara froze, her heart pounding. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to focus. She adjusted the energy flow again, more carefully this time, her hands steady despite the fear. Slowly, the cub's chest began to rise more steadily. Ilara exhaled. Relief surged, but there was no time to celebrate. The alien medics could return at any moment, and some cubs were still weak. Every moment counted. She continued her careful trial and error, her mind working faster than ever before, learning from each tiny response. Then, a small miracle. The cubs started to respond in unison. Their vital signs strengthened. Their skin glowed faintly under the alien scanners. Ilara smiled. feeling a rush of hope she had not felt in years. This was it, the breakthrough. But her joy was short-lived. A soft hum echoed from the lab entrance. The aliens were approaching. She had little time. With one last adjustment, she stabilized the cubs, monitoring each heartbeat and breath, praying that the machines and her instincts were enough. The alien medics entered. Their glowing eyes scanned the room, noting the cubs' vitals. They stopped silent, their movement precise but cautious. One of them spoke, its voice calm but sharp. "Human, what have you done?" Illyria stood tall, her hands trembling slightly but her voice steady. "I saved them," she said. "I found a way." The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Their technology had failed where human intuition had succeeded. They had expected failure. They had not expected ingenuity. The cubs stirred again, their breath stronger, their eyes brighter. It was proof enough. Illyria felt a mix of exhaustion and triumph. Humans were underestimated, yes, but sometimes that made them stronger. As the aliens observed, perhaps for the first time respecting human creativity, Illyria realized this was only the beginning. The path ahead was dangerous, full of unknowns, but for the first time, she had hope. And hope, she knew, was a power even aliens could not fully understand. She knelt beside the cubs, whispering softly, "You're going to be okay. We're going to make it." Outside, the alien world continued, indifferent and vast. But inside the small, glowing lab, one human mind had begun to change everything. And the story of survival, ingenuity, and defiance was just beginning. The lab was silent now, except for the soft, steady hum of alien machinery. The cubs lay on the glowing tables, breathing more steadily than before. Illyria sat on the floor, exhausted but alert. Every heartbeat of the cubs reminded her why she could not fail. She studied the data from her experiments. Every adjustment, every observation, every tiny change. It was all connected. Something deep in the alien medical archives had hinted at it, but she had not understood it fully until now. There was a pattern, a rhythm, a hidden rule that the aliens themselves had overlooked. Illyria's mind raced. The cubs were fragile but adaptable. Their physiology responded to subtle variations in energy and timing, variations that alien technology could not detect because it relied on strict formulas. The key was not in doing what the machine said. The key was in understanding life itself, watching it, and responding. Her fingers flew across the control panels, recording every fluctuation, every heartbeat, every micro-reaction in the cubs' bodies. Slowly, a map of interactions formed in her mind. She began to see a solution, not just random trial and error, but precise sequence, a method the aliens had never considered. As she worked, a soft alarm echoed. Her pulse jumped. The aliens had sensors everywhere. Any unusual activity could alert them. She had to move fast, but carefully. One wrong step could put the cubs at risk, or worse, get her caught. Illyria focused. She adjusted the energy flows, matching them to the subtle patterns she had observed in the cubs' physiology. Each pulse, each wave, each flicker of the machines was tuned with human instinct. It was risky. It was dangerous. But it was the only way. A small cub stirred. Its tiny hands twitched, its eyes blinked. Another responded, and another. Slowly, steadily, life returned to their fragile bodies. Illyria's heart leapt. This was it, the breakthrough. She had discovered the key. She leaned back, catching her breath. She whispered, almost to herself, "I understand now, this is the way." But the victory was fragile. The aliens could return at any moment, and some cubs were still weak. She could not stop now. She had to stabilize them completely, and she had to do it before the aliens noticed anything. Her hands moved over the consoles, combining the alien tech with her new method. It was delicate work. One miscalculation could reverse everything. But she had learned from every mistake, from every failed experiment. Every failure had taught her something new. Hours passed. Sweat dripped down her face. Her eyes burned from staring at the glowing panels. Yet she did not stop, not for a second. Every flicker of life in the cubs was a signal, a guide, a way forward. Then she saw it, a complete response from the cubs. Their vitals were stabilizing, their bodies adapting to the treatment in ways the aliens had not predicted. Ilera smiled, a mix of relief and triumph flooding her. The solution was working. The cubs were responding fully. But she could not relax. The aliens were always observant. She had to prepare for confrontation, for questions, for disbelief. Her solution was not just medicine. It was human ingenuity, human intuition, human creativity. And the aliens might not understand it. She glanced at the cubs, their small faces peaceful now, their chests rising and falling steadily. "We're almost there," she whispered. "Just a little longer and we'll be safe." Outside, the alien world continued, vast and indifferent. But inside the small lab, one human had discovered something no alien machine could predict: the power of understanding, the power of observation, the power of thinking differently. Ilera knew the real challenge was not over. The aliens would return, and they might question her methods. But she had the key now. The cubs' lives were no longer in immediate danger. And more than that, she had proven something powerful. Sometimes, the most advanced technology is not enough. Sometimes, all it takes is a human mind willing to see the world in a different way. She leaned over the cubs, her hands resting gently on their tiny forms. "You're going to make it," she whispered. "I promise." And somewhere deep in the flickering lights of the lab, a small pulse of energy seemed to echo her determination. The key had been found. The path was clear. And the story of human ingenuity and survival was only beginning. The soft hum of the lab was shattered by a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed across the walls, bathing the room in an urgent glow. Ilera froze, her heart pounding. The aliens had detected her interference. She glanced at the cubs, still fragile, but stable enough for the moment. There was no time to lose. With careful hands, she disconnected the machines on the cubs' tables and prepared to move them. Every second counted. The lab door slid open and a squad of alien medics entered. Their glowing eyes scanned the room, precise and unyielding. One of them, the lead, spoke in a voice both calm and dangerous. "Human, explain your actions." Ilera didn't answer. She only looked at the cubs and made a choice. She scooped up the first fragile body, cradling it against her chest. Then another, and another. The cubs were small, heavy with weakness, but they were alive, and that was all that mattered. She bolted for the nearest exit, her feet pounding against the metal floor. Alarms blared behind her. The aliens moved with swift precision, but humans were unpredictable. Ilera twisted through corridors, ducked under energy barriers, and leapt over glowing conduits. Every movement was calculated, yet instinctive. The cubs stirred in her arms. Their tiny hands gripped her suit, weak but alive. Ilera whispered, "Almost there." "Hold on." Her voice was steady, but inside, adrenaline surged. One misstep, one stumble, and they could all be lost. The aliens pursued relentlessly. Drones hovered in the air, scanning with red sensors. Energy barriers swung down to block the paths. The corridors seemed endless, alien architecture twisting in impossible angles, designed to confuse intruders. But Ilera had a human advantage: adaptability. She reached a narrow shaft leading to a hidden maintenance corridor. Sliding the panel aside, she dropped carefully into the passage. The cubs cried softly, but not in fear, just weakness. She moved as silently as she could, though the sounds of pursuit echoed above her. Another alarm blared. Alien voices shouted commands she didn't understand. Drones changed direction, moving toward her position. Ilera's mind raced. She couldn't just hide. She had to create a path forward. In the corner of her mind, a memory surfaced, a pattern in the alien architecture she had noticed earlier, a series of events leading toward the secondary lab. It was risky, barely tested, but it was her only chance. She carried the cubs into the vent, squeezing through narrow spaces, feeling their fragile forms against her chest. The tunnels were dark, cold, and metallic. Every step was a calculation. She pressed forward, knowing the aliens would soon discover the hidden path. Suddenly, a drone appeared at the vent entrance. Its sensors glowed red, sweeping the narrow passage. Ilera froze. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, Using a tiny trick she had learned from observing alien systems, she activated a small energy field to reflect the scanner's beam. The drone paused, confused. She slipped past, heart pounding. Minutes stretched like hours. The cub's breathing was steady now, but they were still weak. Ilera pressed on, moving as fast as she could through the twisting vents, following the hidden path to the secondary lab. She could almost feel safety ahead. Almost. Finally, she emerged into the small, glowing chamber. It was a hidden lab, abandoned by the aliens, with equipment she could use safely. She set the cubs down on soft padding, checking each one's vital signs. They were stable, breathing more evenly, and their small eyes blinked open. Ilera exhaled, her body trembling from exhaustion and relief. She had done it. They were alive. But the danger was far from over. The aliens would not give up. They would search, interrogate, and punish. She had to prepare, not just to save the cubs, but to defend them and herself. Her eyes scanned the room, absorbing every detail. She could combine the hidden lab's equipment with her method. The cubs could recover fully here, if she acted quickly and wisely. Outside, somewhere in the alien corridors, the medics were searching, but Ilera had won a small, crucial victory. She had survived the chase. She had protected the cubs. And she had proven, once again, that human creativity and courage could outmaneuver even the most precise alien technology. She knelt beside the cubs, her hands resting gently on them. "You're safe for now," she whispered. "And tomorrow, we make sure no one can harm you again." The red lights of the distant alarms faded, replaced by the steady glow of the hidden lab. Outside, the alien world remained vast and indifferent. Inside, hope had taken root. One human mind, determined and unyielding, had defied impossible odds. And the story of survival, ingenuity, and courage was only growing stronger. The hidden lab was quiet now, lit by the soft glow of alien consoles and the faint pulse of energy flowing through the walls. The cubs lay on soft padding, their fragile bodies resting after the tense chase. Ilera had protected them, but the fight was far from over. She needed to stabilize them fully, and fast. Ilera took a deep breath and began. The alien machines here were old and unused, but they still worked. She studied their functions carefully, combining her human understanding of biology with the readings from the alien consoles. Every pulse, every wave, every tiny flicker mattered. She adjusted the energy field slowly at first, observing how the cubs' vitals responded. Some responded immediately, their breathing steadying. Others were weaker, their small hands trembling. She had learned a crucial lesson. The aliens' technology was precise, but rigid. It could heal only when the patient fit a specific pattern. Humans did not. Humans adapted. Humans thought. And that thinking made all the difference. Her mind raced, connecting patterns, noting anomalies, predicting reactions. She experimented, changing parameters that the aliens had never considered. Small adjustments, subtle shifts, each one a test, a risk. One mistake could reverse all progress. A cub stirred weakly, its eyes open, looking up at Ilera. She smiled, whispering, "Almost there, just a little longer." She adjusted the flow of energy again, guided not by the alien protocols, but by instinct, observation, and experience. Minutes passed like hours. Sweat dripped from her brow, and her hands ached from constant adjustments. Yet she pressed on, each success fueling her determination. The cubs' vital signs gradually improved. Their skin warmed, their breathing deepened, and a faint glow returned to their cheeks. Then, a sudden complication. One cub's readings dropped sharply. Ilera's heart skipped a beat. She quickly analyzed the situation. The cub was responding poorly to the standard adjustments, just as the aliens had predicted. But humans were different. Humans could improvise. Ilera remembered a small detail from her observations during the previous experiments. A subtle rhythm in the cub's heartbeat, almost like a tiny pattern of light within the energy readings. She carefully synchronized the energy pulses to match that rhythm. Slowly, steadily, the cub's vitals returned to normal. Her eyes widened. This was it. The combination of alien technology and human intuition, fine-tuned through observation and creativity, was working. One by one, The cubs' condition stabilized fully. Their breathing was steady, their eyes bright, and their tiny bodies relaxed in safe, steady health. Elara allowed herself a small smile, but she did not relax. The aliens could return at any moment. They had always underestimated humans, relying on rigid rules and proven formulas. But now, they would see the unpredictable power of human ingenuity, and perhaps for the first time respect it. She moved between the cubs, checking each one, her hands gentle, careful. She whispered to them, "You're safe now. I've got you." They looked up at her with trusting eyes, fragile but alive, and something inside her swelled with pride. The door hissed open suddenly. Red light flashed across the walls. Alien medics had returned. Elara stood tall, her hands empty, but her mind racing with confidence. The cubs were safe, fully stabilized, and the proof of her success was written clearly on the monitors. The lead alien moved closer, its glowing eyes scanning the consoles. "Human, your interference is unexpected." Its voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but confusion. The alien had predicted failure. Yet here were the cubs, alive and stable. Elara met its gaze calmly. "You were wrong," she said. "Your technology is advanced, yes, but it cannot replace thinking. It cannot replace observation. It cannot replace human ingenuity." The alien hesitated, silent. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. Its kind relied on certainty, on rules, on formulas. Humans had no such limitations. Their creativity, adaptability, and intuition, messy, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless, had succeeded where the most advanced technology had failed. The other aliens stepped forward, scanning the cubs. Their glowing eyes widened as the monitors confirmed the readings. Elara's plan had worked. The cubs were safe, fully stabilized, and thriving. She glanced at the cubs, a quiet sense of victory in her heart. The aliens could question her, challenge her methods, even punish her, but they could not deny the truth. Human creativity had triumphed, and in that quiet lab, filled with soft glows and the steady hum of energy, one human mind had rewritten the rules. One human had saved lives, not through superior technology, but through determination, observation, and ingenuity. Elara knelt beside the cubs, brushing a strand of hair from one tiny forehead. "We did it," she whispered. "You're going to be okay. And no one can take that away from you." Outside, the alien world stretched endlessly, indifferent and vast. Inside, hope had grown, strong and unyielding. One human mind had proven that ingenuity, courage, and determination could surpass even the most advanced technology. And the story of survival and human brilliance was far from over. The lab was quiet now, except for the soft hum of the alien machines and the steady breaths of the cubs. Elara stood tall, her eyes scanning the room. The cubs were safe, their vitals stable. But she knew the moment of reckoning had arrived. The door slid open with a hiss. The alien medics entered, moving with precise, deliberate steps. Their glowing eyes focused on the cubs first, then shifted to Elara. The lead alien spoke, voice calm but firm. "Human, your actions are irregular. Explain yourself." Elara met its gaze without fear. "I did what had to be done," she said. "Your methods, your rules, they failed. The cubs were dying. I found another way." The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. "You interfered with procedures that are centuries old. You risked the lives of the cubs. Do you understand the consequences?" Elara took a deep breath. "I understand more than you realize. I risked everything to save them, and I succeeded. The cubs are alive, stable, and recovering because I used my mind, not just machines." The alien hesitated, confused. Its kind relied on formulas, on rigid procedures, on certainty. Humans were unpredictable, messy, emotional, but effective. They could see solutions where machines could not. Another alien stepped forward, its voice sharper. "Human, you acted without permission. You broke laws. You are reckless." Elara shook her head. "No, I acted with reason, observation, and understanding. Your technology is powerful, but it cannot see life like we do. It cannot adapt. It cannot think differently. That is human strength." The lead alien's eyes flickered. It approached the cubs, scanning them carefully. The monitors confirmed what Alara had said. The cubs were stable, their bodies responding perfectly to her methods. The alien's glowing eyes widened slightly. Surprise, perhaps respect. "You saved them?" the lead alien asked, almost whispering. "Against protocol?" Alara nodded. "Yes, against protocol. Because sometimes following the rules is not enough. Sometimes you have to think, observe, and act. You have to be human." There was a long silence. The aliens scanned, analyzed, and debated among themselves in a language Alara could not understand. Finally, the lead alien turned back to her. "Your methods are unorthodox, yet effective. Perhaps humans are not as weak as we assumed." Alara smiled slightly. "We're not weak. We adapt. We learn. We survive." The other aliens nodded slowly, their rigid expressions softening. The impossible had happened. Human intuition, creativity, and courage had triumphed where centuries of alien expertise had failed. One alien touched the consoles gently, observing the energy flows. "This combination of technology and thought is remarkable." Alara straightened, her eyes meeting the lead alien's glowing gaze. "It's not technology alone that saves lives," she said. "It's observation, understanding, and the courage to try when everyone else says it's impossible." The alien hesitated, then seemed to consider her words. "Perhaps humans have potential beyond what we imagined." Alara glanced at the cubs. They were breathing steadily, their small bodies alive because she had refused to give up. "Potential," she whispered. "Yes, and we're just getting started." The alien stepped back, their eyes still glowing, but with a new recognition. They may not fully understand human creativity, but they had witnessed it, and they could not ignore it. Alara knelt beside the cubs, brushing a small hand against one tiny forehead. "You're safe," she whispered, "and no one can take that away from you." Outside, the alien world stretched endlessly, indifferent and vast. Inside, in a small glowing lab, one human had challenged centuries of alien certainty and won. The confrontation was over, but the lesson was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. And somewhere deep in the blinking lights of the lab, a new respect had been born. One that would change everything in the days to come. The hidden lab was quiet now, bathed in a soft glow from the consoles and the gentle hum of alien machinery. The cubs lay on their soft pads, breathing steadily, their tiny bodies strong and alive. Alara knelt beside them, her hands gently resting on their small forms. She had done the impossible. She had saved them. The aliens remained in the lab, their glowing eyes fixed on her. They had witnessed human creativity and courage firsthand. Their rigid procedures had failed. Their centuries of precise knowledge had been outmatched by one human mind. And now, they had no choice but to acknowledge it. The lead alien stepped forward, its tall form towering over the consoles. "Human, your methods are effective. The cubs survive. Your approach, unexpected yet successful." Alara met its gaze calmly. "It wasn't just me," she said softly. "It was human determination, observation, and the willingness to try when everything else fails. That's what saved them." Another alien moved closer to the cubs, scanning their vitals. "We underestimated humans," it admitted, its voice almost hesitant. "We did not foresee this outcome." Alara smiled slightly, but her eyes were serious. "That's the thing about humans," she said. "We don't give up. We find ways to survive, even in situations everyone else thinks are hopeless. We adapt. We think differently. And sometimes that makes all the difference." The aliens paused, absorbing her words. For the first time, they seemed to consider humans not as fragile beings to study, but as capable allies, or even equals. Their glowing eyes flickered, a silent acknowledgement of respect. Alara turned her attention back to the cubs. Their small hands reached for her, weak but alive, trusting her completely. She felt a surge of relief and pride. Every moment of doubt, every risk she had taken, every experiment that failed and taught her something new, all of it had led to this. "We did it," she whispered, brushing a small strand of hair from one cub's forehead. "You're safe, and we're going to keep it that way." The lead alien stepped back, its glowing eyes scanning the room. "Your approach, human, it is remarkable. Perhaps there is much we can learn from your kind." Ilara's heart lifted. This was more than a victory for the cubs. It was a victory for humanity. The aliens had always assumed humans were limited, fragile, and primitive. Yet here, in this small lab on a distant world, one human had shown what humans could accomplish when they combined courage, intelligence, and adaptability. She glanced at the cubs again, smiling softly. "If humans can save these cubs," she whispered, "imagine what else we can do among the stars." The aliens remained silent, but the recognition was clear. They had learned something new, something they could not teach, something they could not predict. Humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, innovators, problem solvers. They were capable of extraordinary things. Ilara straightened, her eyes scanning the lab one last time. The cubs were fully stabilized, their tiny faces peaceful. She had protected them, and she had proven that human ingenuity could succeed where even advanced alien technology might fail. She turned to the lead alien. "We can work together," she said. "Learn from each other. Solve problems not just with technology, but with thinking, with understanding, with creativity." The alien considered her words, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps this is the beginning." Outside, the twin suns of the alien world cast long shadows across the land, vast and indifferent. But inside the lab, hope had grown. One human mind had changed the course of events. One human had saved lives that everyone else had deemed lost, and in doing so, had left a mark that could never be erased. Ilara knelt beside the cubs once more, smiling down at their small faces. "We've done it," she whispered. "And this is just the start." For the first time in the lab, there was a sense of quiet triumph. Humans had proven themselves, not through brute strength or advanced technology alone, but through ingenuity, courage, and determination. The cubs were safe. The aliens had witnessed the power of human thinking, and a new chapter in the story of survival, ingenuity, and hope among the stars had begun.